Hi, this is Mr. Heichel. I'm back bringing you part 2 of a 3-part series on mastering the biology STAAR test. So let's pick up where we left off. We were on question number 19, so let's go to question 20. The question says, this diagram demonstrates a feedback process involving antidiuretic hormone, ADH, and it says ADH increases the permeability of parts of the nephrons of the kidneys, resulting in less water in urine. Okay, so your kidneys are responsible for getting urine out of your body, getting water, regulating salt, all that good stuff. So think excretory system, lets you pee out. So it has to deal with water. Well, our answer choices, it says the feedback loop is likely to be activated when what? Well, if we lose water, if we have less water, our body is going to experience dehydration. Glucose isn't even mentioned. Body temperature isn't mentioned in the question at all. It talks about the urinary tract, but it doesn't say anything about the infection. So again, if you don't know the content, try to match like words from the question, like water, to a process or an experience like dehydration, which is the too much water loss in your body. 21. In the 1940s, the scientist J.B.S. Haldane linked many human red blood cell disorders with tropical regions where malaria occurs. Haldane hypothesized that the widespread presence of these red blood cell disorders, as well as traits that protect individuals from malaria, were results of natural selection. Haldane's hypothesis was later confirmed by the research of A.C. Allison. The resistance to malaria carried by these individuals where malaria is widespread is the result of what? Well, it says they're carried by traits, and it has to do with natural selection. Well, traits are what you inherit from your parents. You inherit your traits from your parents. You get 23 chromosomes from mom, 23 chromosomes from dad. That gives you your genes or your traits, or what's being displayed. And then it also says natural selection. Well, that's Darwin's theory that only the strong survive, and those strong that do survive reproduce successfully and pass their successful traits on to the next generation. So the answer choice is going to be B, an individual's genetic composition, because traits are genetic. 22. Again, most people probably skip over this one. They probably miss it because they see it. It's a lot to read. So it says some foods that are rich in complex carbohydrates can be difficult to digest. Gas often forms as the foods are slowly digested by bacteria in the large intestine. The advertisement is for a nutritional supplement that prevents intestinal gas. So it says gas troubles. Take our supplement when eating meals in high complex carbohydrates to prevent discomfort of intestinal gas. The question goes on to ask, which of the following represents evidence that could be used to support the claims about this product? So it has to do, our answer choice is going to have to do something with carbohydrates in the intestines and gas. Alright, so let's get to work. Answer choice F says complex carbohydrates are found in vegetables and grains, which are good sources of fiber, vitamins, antioxidants, and minerals. Okay, well, this has nothing to do to support the claims that this is going to prevent gas. Some nutritional supplements provide vitamins and minerals that are missing from a person's diet. It's not talking about that it replaces anything. The only letter choice that makes sense is letter H, because consuming enzymes specific for carbohydrates helps the body digest. This mentions digestion up here. It mentions digestion in our answer choice. So by comparing the two and looking at the two like words in the question and the answer, we come up with the answer of H. 23 says researchers studying populations of lizards from the genus Galotia on the Canary Islands compared the protein cytochrome B in different populations. The table shows the number of differences in cytochrome B protein between different populations. The question goes on to state which conclusion about the relatedness of lizards do these data support, or does this data support? So when we're looking at this, These are the differences. So we've got to find, okay, this one all the way down has 36 differences. This one has 41. This one has 40, 40, 45, and 49. If we go down and across, it tells us the differences. So let's go through this. So it says Atlantia and Stellini are the least closely related. So let's go to Stellini, let's go to Atlanta, and we have 36 differences. 36. And then we go to the next one. We've got Simone and Brevonia. And it says, okay, so let's go to Brevonia and let's go to Simone. They only have 4 differences. So far that's the right answer. But let's make sure before we make our decision. So then it says Galotia and Palme and Anstrantia are most closely related. So let's go to Palme and let's go to Anstrantia. Well, that's an 8. So no, because 4 is our correct answer so far. And so let's compare the last 2. And then we see that we did the same thing. We go down here, we go down to this, so we've got 6. Well, 4 is the least amount of differences, so they're going to be most closely related. 24. Energy pyramid below shows the energy made available by producers based on the energy flow between levels in an energy pyramid. How much energy would be expected to be found at the secondary consumer level of this pyramid? So there's a rule. Every time you see a tropic pyramid like this, 10% is going to transfer to the next level. The reason that is because 90% of our heat, 90% of what we eat is given up to normal body processes like digestion and maintaining maintaining homeostasis, so maintaining 98.6 degrees, sweating, panting, shivering. All that is energy is being transferred, but you only get about 10% per tropic level. So we want to know secondary consumer level. So if we start at 10,000 here, well, 10% of 10,000 is 1,000. And then 10% of 1,000 is going to be 100. We're just going to drop off a 0. And if we were going to go up to the tertiary consumers, 10% of 100 is 10. But our correct answer is going to be 100 because 10% transfers through to each energy level. 25. We get to do a dichotomous key. So this is essentially a scavenger hunt. So it says simple leaves have a single leaf on the petale or stem, while compound leaves have more than one leaflet on a petale. This unknown leaf can be identified using the dichotomous key. Okay, so this is our unknown leaf. These are our clues to get us there. All right, well, this looks like a simple leaf to me. So then we're going, it says simple leaf, because we're going to compare it to this picture right here, and it looks more closely like that. So then it says go to question 3. So then let's skip down to 3. It says leaf length is 4 more times greater than the width. Not really. So length is 4. It's probably about two times. So if it was, it would be this. But then it says go to question 4. So then let's go to 4. Leaf pointed at the tip. It's not. A pointed at the tip would be like that. This is more rounded at the tip. So then leaf rounded at the tip, it's going to be this one right here, which is going to be D. 26. Again, another very simple one, but don't skip over it just because it's long and you don't feel like reading. There is a lot of information on here that is just trying to throw you off. So gel electrophoresis from a DNA sample is placed in a small well at the end of a special gel-coated plate. Samples from known donors are placed in other wells on the plate. An electrical current passes through the plate, causing the DNA fragments to separate. The size and location of the separated fragments can be compared for similarities. The more similar locations and sizes of the fragments, the more closely the donors of these samples are related. So this diagram shows that. It says the donor from which sample is most closely related from the donor of the unknown. So think of this as a fingerprint. And you're going to compare the bars and the banding patterns going across. So this is our unknown sample. So we're just going to go across. So sample 1 in the unknown pairs up here, here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there are 7 pairs. So this one has 1, 2. This one doesn't match up to anything. So 1, 2. This one doesn't match up to anything. 1, 2, 3. This one matches up. 4. And this one does not. So this one only has 4 similarities. So then we do the same thing for sample 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is identical. Identical. Unknown sample and sample 3 are identical. They both have 8 patterns, 8 bandings that match up. So if we just want to check, sample 4 has 1, 2, nothing there, 3, 4, nothing there, and 4. So our answer is sample 3 or letter H. 27. A student reads this advertisement for a product containing a plant micronutrient that can be added to soil. It says Miracle Micro B contains 2 grams of boron, a micronutrient that is vital to reproduction in plants. We recommend continuous application of Miracle Micro B to your garden or crops. Based on this information, the student can conclude that boron is absorbed by the plant's roots from the soil, and then, well, it has to be absorbed by the roots, and then it has to get to the plant's leaves and stems and everything else. And the only way it can do that is by the plant's shoot system, or letter A. That's just one of those ones you kind of really have to know. Stomata is for gas exchange. Reproduction, it's going to make reproductive materials anyways, but the shoot system was going to make it bigger and what's going to actually hold it up. So then 28. The surface of the stomach is lined with epithelial cells called surface mucus cells. These cells produce a thick mucus that coats the epithelium on the inside of the stomach. What is the purpose of this mucus coating? Well, this mucus coating is going to protect it. So it's going to protect the epithelial cells. It says that. It says these cells produce a thick mucus coating. Okay, the mucus, think about your fingernails. They protect your underneath of your fingernail bed from water loss and moisture loss. So this mucus is going to protect the epithelial cells from the stomach acid. Again, that's just kind of the ones you just kind of have to know what's going on. 29. 29 is going to take us a little bit. So it says in Holstein cattle, the allele for black hair color is represented by big B, which means it's dominant over the allele for red hair. And the allele for polled or lacking horns is dominant over the allele for having horns. What is the expected phenotypic ratio of that cross if these alleles sort independently? Okay, well, essentially what you have to do on here is you have to do what's called a dihybrid cross. So to get to what we need to do, we've got to FOIL these out. So this big B and this big P are going to pair up. Then you're going to go big P to little p, then little b to big P, little b to little p, and then you do the same FOIL method over here. You do first, outside, inside, last. So then we're going to do big B, big P. So both of these are heterozygous, remember, because heterozygous means different. And then we're going to have, so then we're going to, if we want to make our boxes, we can make our boxes. We don't have to. So then we're going to bring these down, and we're going to group the letters together because it's going to be easier. So we're going to fill in all of these. So again, I'm bringing these down, and then I'm bringing these across on all of them. Just like a reverse multiplication table, and I'm simply just grouping my letters together. I covered the question because there's a lot to write on this. So that's what we should get. Okay, so now let's try to get both of these back on here together. So if we're looking at this, we know that black, we want to know what is the phenotypic ratio of this. Okay, so black has to have a big B. So big B is dominant. So, or big B, little b is going to be black. Little b is going to be red because it says it's dominant, so red is 2 little b's. And then it also goes on to state that something else we need to look for, we need to see if it's polled or not. So polled is going to be either of these two can be polled. And then if it's going to have horns, it's got to be 2 little p's because little p's are recessive. So then we just simply count. We count how many big p's we have first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we should get a 9, 3, 3, 1 ratio. Anytime you're going to have a 9, 3, 3, 1, if you have a heterozygous and heterozygous in a dihybrid or 2-trait cross, it's automatically always going to be a 9, 3, 3, 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 12 that are black. Well, out of those 12 that are black, we see that 3 of them are going to be little p, little b. So 1, 2, and our third one is right here, 3. So it's going to be a 9, 3, 3, 1. So this is going to be black polled, black polled, black polled, which is, or sorry, black horned. Black horned are going to be these X's. The ones with the circles are going to be the black that are going to be polled. We should have 9 of those. And then we should have 3 that are red, so we should have 3 little b's. So we actually have 4, but 3 that are red polled. So red P, and then we have 1 out here that has nothing, so that's going to be our 1. 9, 3, 3, 1 ratio. 30. A student researching bacteria concluded a report with the claim in the box. It says all bacteria disrupt the health of organisms they inhabit, including humans, which statement correctly addresses the validity of this claim. Well, right away this claim is false because in your gut you have beneficial bacteria. It's part of your normal flora and fauna. You have bacteria in your gut that help break down food, help process things, and those bacteria actually help keep you healthy. So this claim is invalid because there are many types of bacteria that help maintain your homeostasis. If you take an antibiotic, a lot of people get diarrhea because it kills the bad bacteria, but it also kills the good bacteria. So there are beneficial bacteria. So that is why that claim is false. Which of the following is an example of the endocrine system directly interacting with the nervous system? So the endocrine system is hormones. Right away, you just have to know that, which gives us the answer of B. So the endocrine system is your hormones, and the nervous system is kind of like your spinal cord and lower part of your brain, all of your nerve endings, your introns, your exons, all that good stuff. 32. Roads are often built through forest for industrial purposes or as land is developed for residential and commercial needs. How would road construction through a forest most likely affect an ecosystem? Well, just think about it. They're building a road through your community or your city. You have this beautiful park. It's full of grass. It's full of trees. And they're going to build a road right through it. Well, it's going to change the natural succession of the vegetation because there's no longer going to be, the primary succession of grass and then shrubs and then bushes and then trees. It's going to change all of that. It's going to take off a big part of that. So the correct answer is going to be H. The natural succession of vegetation will change because the makeup of the land is going to change. People who have leukemia, which is a cancer that affects white blood cells, are often given citrabine, a drug that inhibits the synthesis of DNA. Which phase of the cell cycle is most likely affected by citrabine? Well, let's look at the cycle. So G1 is growth 1. So the cell is just growing. It's getting bigger. S phase. S means synthesis, or that's where the DNA is actually being made. G2 is the second growth phase. And all of these have checkpoints. So if the cell is in G1 and it's not big enough, it's going to go through what's called apoptosis, or it's going to kill itself, and it's going to start back over from the beginning. And once that checkpoint's cleared, then it's going to enter S. Once all the DNA has been synthesized and made, then it's going to enter G2, which is going to get bigger. And then once it clears the G2 checkpoint, it enters the M phase, which is mitosis, which, if we remember from the last presentation, we have prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, and cytokinesis. These three phases, G1, S, and G2, is a phase called interphase. It's a phase that isn't typically listed, but it's where a cell spends 90% of its life is in interphase, just growing, being a cell, getting bigger, getting its DNA, getting all the information that it needs to be successful. This diagram represents a theory about cells. So essentially what this diagram is representing, it is talking about the endosymbiotic theory. So this theory tells us that complex cells came to where they are now from primitive cells because they engulfed bacteria, and those bacteria continued to function and eventually conformed into mitochondrion or chloroplasts, or maybe both. So that's essentially all this is telling you, which is the answer J. This is, again, one of those ones that you just need to know. But if you didn't know it, you can see that this is engulfing here, right? This is going through endocytosis. So it's bringing in large particles. So engulfing bacteria. You can see that this little pseudoproduct that this cell is extending out is going to engulf. Okay, it's opening up a channel in its membrane. It's going to engulf this bacteria. So J is the correct answer. 35. Recent studies in bone research indicate that using ultrasound on a broken bone can decrease the healing time by 25%, which is the most basic level of organization when a bone heals. Okay, so we start with atoms. Atoms make up molecules, right? Molecules make up what we got. What do we think? Okay, so molecules make up cells. Cells make up tissues. Tissues make up organs. And organs make up systems. And systems make up a living thing, or an organism. So if we're dealing with just a bone, we're dealing with cells and tissues, because bones make up organ systems. So we're going to deal with A right here. Which of these is the direct result of an error in the transcription of a DNA nucleotide? Okay, well, let's make a transcription error. So let's say we've got tag, gat, cag. and we're going to transcribe it. So transcription is just rewriting DNA into an mRNA. So remember, there is no T in RNA, so this A is going to become a U. The C is going to be an A is a U, C to G. We have G, and then we have U, and then we have C. So if we mess up an error here, we mess up, what are these? So mRNA, one of those is called a codon. Remember, it's going to code, and then it's going to make an amino acid in the ribosome. So our correct answer is going to be H. A codon sequence will be incorrect. Because if there's a process that's disrupting this sequence, our codon is going to be affected, and we're going to have a different codon than what we originally should have. 4 common relationships between organisms are listed below in the box. We have to identify which of these is the best description. So bees pollinate the plants as they move from flower to flower to gather nectar. Okay? Well, the bees benefit from this because they get food, and the plants benefit from this also because they get to spread their genetic information and breed with other plants. Green algae grows on the back of spider crabs in shallow water, camouflaging the crabs, while the crabs protect the algae from predators. So the spider crabs get camouflaged, so that's a plus. So plus plus, they both benefit, is a mutualistic relationship. So mutual. Remember that plus minus is, our plus, the other one doesn't care, is commensalism. A plus minus can be predation or parasitism. And then when we have minus minus is competition. So far, both of these are going to be mutualistic relationships. Fleas live on the skin of dogs and obtain nutrients. So this is parasitism, so this is plus minus. Nitrogen-fixing bacteria obtain their nutrients from their host plants and use the nutrients to supply nitrogen to the plants. That sounds like both of them benefit, so our correct answer is going to be D. 1, 2, and 4 are all mutualistic relationship because both organisms benefit. And relationship 3 is going to be parasitism. The reason it's not predation is because the flea doesn't necessarily kill the dog. It doesn't hunt the dog down and kill it. Think of a lion eating a gazelle. That is predation. Parasitism is where it could infect the dog, but not always. It's more of a nuisance than anything. And last one for part 2. A student conducted an investigation to study phototropism in grasses. The only difference between the control group and the experimental group was light conditions. Photo meaning light and how it responds to light. So we're studying how plants react to light. So that's good that the only difference was the light condition. The control group was provided full light while the experimental group was shaded on one side. The diagram shows the average height and the position of the blades of grass in the investigation. Which statement best explains why the tips of the experimental group bent towards the light? Okay, well, our control group grew straight up because there was no shade. So this one had shade. Well, it didn't really get high enough for the shade to affect it. So the reason this bent away from the shade, because we have light shining here, and plants always grow towards the light. So they respond to where the light's at, so it's going to grow this way. So the only way that would do that would be light sensors in the grass. But if you didn't know that, again, we're talking about grass. So we're talking about grass and light. We know photo means light. So let's find an answer choice that has light and grass in it, and we'll be good. This experiment didn't mention anything about water. It didn't mention anything about the nutrients, and it did not mention anything about carbon dioxide or the atmosphere. The only thing that it really talked about was light and how well the grass grew or how well it did not grow. So again, this has been part 2. Look for part 3 in the next coming days. I hope you are enjoying these. If not, I'm sorry. I just think it's really good to go over test-taking strategies and how the STAAR test is actually worded and structured for your best success.